Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my review of Sheepfarmer's Daughter, the first book in the Deed of Paksenarrion trilogy. This is book 1. Book 2 is titled Divided Allegiance, and book 3 is titled Oath of Gold. I have heard a little bit about this series from the book reviewer Brian Lee Durfee, and I saw on his channel that he loved it so much he went out and bought some other Elizabeth Moon books as well. And so I was like, you know what? It looks interesting. I'm going to purchase it. And I found book 3 at my local bookstore. Couldn't find books 1 or 2, so I asked my parents to order them online. And unfortunately, my editions do not all match. The books 1 and 3 kind of match, but book 2 doesn't. But still, I'm just happy to have the trilogy. But I picked these out, and I decided to start these beginning in 2024 to begin this trilogy. And my plan is to read book 2 in February and book 3 in March. So I plan to read them in pretty fast succession. And I knew that this was military-inspired fantasy, but this really is into the genre of military fantasy. Like, a lot of authors that I've read, they have armies, and they have military ranks and soldiers in their armies, and they have a lot of battles and a lot of war in their books. That's like a staple of most fantasy, especially the epic fantasy genre. However, usually it's like you're following the leaders of the army, you're following the generals, you're following the king, you're following the prince maybe, you're following the leadership of the military. And so you don't really see the ins and outs of the daily works of the rank and file soldiers. And you also generally don't go into the minutia of what a soldier's life would be like, particularly at the time. You're generally more focused on the fantasy, the magic, you're more focused on the world building, all this type of stuff. This book, however, is entirely focused on the military aspects. What would a military kind of in the medieval times be like, especially what would one be like that had women soldiers in it, as well as men soldiers, obviously. And so Elizabeth Moon really hyper-focuses on that. So this is a fantasy world that she's created. It has a map and all this stuff. There are theoretically dwarves and elves and other creatures and magical stuff in this world, but that is not the focus, and you don't really see that much in book 1. There is magic in this world, and the magic affects our main character, Paksenarrion, but it's not really the focal point. It's really a minor detail of the story. It is something that crops up a lot, but it's not like something that drives the story. It's no Sword of Shannara where the whole story is based off of. Then that's also a soft magic system, but that story is about getting the magic right so you can defeat the evil lord. There's nothing like that in this story per se. As far as I understand, book 2 delves more into the magic and more into our main character's connection to the world's magic, but that's not book 1. Book 1, at least, is entirely focused on the military aspects. So you have Paksenarrion, Dorthan's daughter. I'm really glad that they shortened her name to Pax. She does, at the very beginning of the book, does not want to get married. She does not want to be forced into something. She wants to join the military. That's what she's always wanted. And so she leaves home, joins the military, and finds out what it's really like. And the book is basically formatted into 3 parts. You have the part of her time when she's basically a recruit, which is about the first 150 pages. Then you have the time when she's just starting out, going into battles, doing all the regular soldier stuff, and there's a little subplot there as well that happens, and that's like the next 150 pages. The last 200 pages of the book are when Pax is essentially a veteran. She's been at this a couple of years, and you're seeing her as a leader, not like a commander. Like she doesn't have a commanding role, but she has the respect of people because she's been around for so long. And so the book's divided into those 3 parts. And the first part was just riveting storytelling. I won't get into all the details, but basically in the opening act, Pax is accused of starting a fight, which she did not start. And you as the audience pretty much know, of course she didn't start this fight. And then this whole trial happens as a result. And you see from both Pax's point of view and from like the judge's point of view how the trial unfolds. And I was on the edge of my seat the whole time I read this. I was like, I have to know what happens in the trial. It was truly riveting stuff. And I was like, if the rest of the book's this good, I'm gonna love it. And then the battles start in the second portion of the book, the second act, which is about pages 150-ish to about 300-ish. That's not exact, but that's about roughly where it happens. And this sequence I did not love. I did not feel gripped by this sequence like the first sequence gripped me. However, there was the part of the plot is that Pax and a couple other characters escape, and their whole goal is to get the news down to the Duke. And I wasn't on the edge of my seat like with the first part, but I did want to find out: does she make it to the Duke? Does she get there in time? Does she make an actual impact? And will the Duke listen to her? I always like those kind of stories where the person travels really far, and it's like unlikely that's going to make a difference, but the person, by gosh, is going to at least get the information to the people that need it to try to make a difference. I really like those types of stories, so I thought that was entertaining. I felt it went a bit over long, could have shortened a little bit, but it was still entertaining. Then the final section has a few little subplots and stuff that happens, and I liked once we got closer to the end, and it kind of wrapped up the whole section, the whole book, particularly the middle part and the last part, kind of wrap everything up, and I did like that at least, and sets Pax on her journey post this book. There's basically like a hook for book 2 regarding her and the magic around her that I think is really interesting. So I can't wait to read that about it in book 2. With this book, there's not a ton of world building. It's very plain. Like you could almost, if you took out the little bit of magic and you took out references to dwarves and elves, which again, I really references, not even that you fight them or see them, you just kind of have references to them. You take that out and then, maybe switch the names of the characters and stuff. This could really be a medieval novel. It really is. It's more about seeing this medieval times, how the military would operate, and what the rank and file is like, especially being a woman in their military. So even though people compare this to, something like Lord of the Rings, I saw some reviewers compare this to that. I don't see that at all. I see this as the fantasy equivalent of Honor Harrington, honestly. I think that if you've read the Honor Harrington novels, you'll probably enjoy this as well, because it has that similar taste to it. There were some minor characters I appreciated. One minor character, Sabin, I really liked him. He had a fun dynamic. He had a Gifts of the Magi moment with Pax, which was just hilarious. I really enjoyed that. And then also the two characters that just really, every time they were on the page, I was excited to see them, were Stammel, who is basically becomes Pax's close friend. I think he's her sergeant. And then also the Duke. I loved reading about the Duke because he had this great connection with Pax, and he had this great understanding of Pax that a lot of the other characters didn't, and he had such patience with her and others, and so I really enjoyed the Duke and Stammel. So whenever they were on screen, or on the page, I should say, whenever they were present in the story, I was really excited to see them. So I hope that they're present in some way in books 2 and 3, although I wouldn't count on it based off of what the pitch for book 3 is. But anyway, I really enjoyed the book, but I wouldn't count this as a favorite necessarily, because I think that the middle dragged for a little bit. I think it could have been cut, and then also just because it didn't hook me like the opening. The opening is like the first 150 pages, top tier storytelling, and then there are chapters within this that are top tier storytelling, but I can't say as a whole it's top tier, so I'm going to give it like an 8 out of 10. Really entertaining, really enjoyed it, not a favorite yet, although if books 2 and 3 are amazing, this might jump onto my favorites list depending on how books 2 and 3 go. But I enjoyed Sheepfarmer's Daughter. If you've read this book and enjoyed it, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.